Hi, I'm Alice the Fabric Ninja, and this is a quick tutorial on how to assemble the maple leaf block. You can get this block for free on my website. It comes with SVG patterns if you want to cut this on your Cricut or Silhouette, as well as PDF patterns. It comes in 3 sizes, 15-inch, 12-inch, and 5-inch. Today we are making the 15-inch and going to turn it into a pillow. The first thing I'm doing is just matching up all of the triangle pieces after laying out my design. First, I matched up the pieces with the stem, and now I am just putting all the other pieces together. This is a no dog-eared pattern, so that's why those triangle bits have that end cut off. Once I have everything matched up, it's time to sew them together. Pressing is an important part of quilting. We're going to press all of those seam allowances to the dark side. Make sure to press, not iron. You don't want to distort your blocks. Once all those half square triangles are pressed, put them back on your board in place, and then we're going to match up pairs so that we know where to sew next. I am matching up the pairs on both sides of the center, just so I only need to go to the sewing machine once. But if you prefer to do one side and then the other, go for it. Time to sew. Back at the ironing board, we are going to again try to press our seams to the dark side, but it may not always work. We have a combination of triangles and squares here, so just do your best to hide those seam allowances under something that's a little bit darker than it. In Fast Forward, it really looks like I'm wailing on these blocks, but you need to be gentle when you're pressing, and so am I. We don't want to distort our blocks. Just as we did before, we're going to lay out our pieces in the design and then match them up so that we can sew those last seams to create the block. At this point, I am matching my seams as well as nesting my seam allowances to keep those intersections aligned and smooth. Back to the sewing machine. You don't have to love ironing as a quilter, but it certainly helps. At this point, I'm just trying to get all of the seam allowances to lay smooth. Whichever way they want to go at this point, I am happy with. If you are making a 12-inch block, you're going to stop here, but I'm making a 15-inch block, so I'm going to add my pieces of sashing. I'm adding the short ones to opposite sides. Tired of pressing yet? Don't worry, there's not that much left to go. We're going to iron these pieces of sashing. My sashing ended up a little bit too long, which totally happens sometimes. It probably means my seam allowance was just a little bit too big as I was sewing, but it's super easy to fix. Just chop it off and add those other 2 pieces of sashing. What do you like to do while pressing? I'm currently listening to an audiobook called Knit 1, Kill 2. Ta-da! Oh, isn't that pretty? Okay, you can see my 2 sashings are also a little bit long, but we're not going to deal with those right now. We're going to add the batting and the backing. I have a huge crumpled chunk of batting here that I'm just kind of laying out. I'm going to hack a square out of the corner, and then I'm going to toss down the backing and do the same. Then they are getting pressed because they are a mess. Okay, now that my layers are actually flat, we're going to make our quilt sandwich. First our backing, then our batting, and then our quilt on top of it. I'm going to use some temporary spray adhesive to help hold things together, but then I'm going to add some pins. I don't know why I'm doing both, but I am today. Now it's time to do some quilting. Before I made this one, I actually made 4 coasters and tried out a different quilting pattern on each one. So this time I'm just doing the one that I liked the best, which was kind of gently wavy lines and then kind of some swoops. But I'm not doing free motion quilting right now. My sewing machine is actually doing the pulling. I'm just doing the wiggles. And it's kind of making this feel like wind blowing through it. I don't know. I like the look of it. So basically, I just kept doing this through the whole thing. I am using yellow thread right now, and there's this shade of yellow that I use way more often than I would ever think I would need to, but yellow just works so well for so many things. When I am completely done with the block, I am going to sew all the way around the edge just to hold it down so it's easier when I go back to trim it up. Enjoy some music as you watch this relaxing quilting at 4 times its speed. Yes, I am going to press it one more time, but it will only take a second. Well, look at that. I'm really happy with the quilting design. It adds just enough texture. Now it's time to trim it down to size. Ideally, this is going to end up 15 or 15.5 inches. You know, whatever size it is, just make it vaguely squarish. At this point, you can decide if you're going to bind the edges to make a mini quilt or turn it into a pillow like I'm going to do. We have our pillow backs here, and the first thing we need to do is double fold one edge of both of the pieces. One of those long edges is going to get folded over and then folded over again. Then it's time to sew along that folded edge. I'm going to sew from the right side just because I want to make sure that it looks good from the right side. Now it's time to put the pillow backs onto your main quilt block. You have 2 of them, so pick the one that you like the best, and that one's going to go down first. It goes face down with a double folded edge, that clean finished edge, towards the center, and those raw cut edges around the outside of your quilt block. And then the other one goes on the other side, so they overlap in the center, and together they cover the entire block. Once you have everything aligned, just pin or clip everything together. Because there's those 2 parts that overlap each other, make sure you put some good pins or clips in that area. And I like really clipping those corners to make sure that things don't run away as I'm sewing. The sewing part is very simple. All we're going to do is sew 1/4 of an inch around the entire outside edge. Now, if it's hard for you to sew 1/4 of an inch because of that bulk of the batting and the backing, feel free to make it just a little bit wider if it makes it easier for you. Now that you've sewn around the entire perimeter, we are going to clip our corners in order to reduce the bulk, and then we're going to flip it right side out. We can grab right in between those 2 pillow flaps and pull it out through the center, so we didn't actually have to leave an extra hole in order to turn it right side out. Once it's right side out, take some time to pull or push out all those corners so they are as pointed as you want them to be. Your pillow cover is finished, so let's add a pillow. It goes right through those back openings. Just push it in one side and then pull the other envelope flap around it. There we go. You have a pillow. Now that you have your pillow done, obviously you need to go around your house and yard and have a little photo shoot. I have made the 5-inch coasters here, but there's of course the 5, 12, and 15-inch designs available. You can download them in PDF or SVG patterns so that you can cut them on your Cricut or cut them by hand. You will find them in the Fabric Ninja Freebie Library, fabricninja.com/free pattern. I'm Alice the Fabric Ninja. Thank you for sewing with me today.